The Centurion tank, one of the most iconic and influential main battle tanks of the 20th century, emerged as a key component in post-World War II armored warfare. Its development, which began during the war, spanned over decades, leading to a design that became the backbone of numerous armed forces worldwide. The Centurion's success is attributed to its versatility, adaptability, and robustness, making it a hallmark of British tank engineering. Here's a comprehensive narrative detailing its history and development. Origins and development during World War II. The origins of the Centurion tank trace back to the early 1940s, when the British Army sought to address critical shortcomings in its existing tank fleet. During the North African campaigns and the subsequent engagements in Europe, British tanks like the Churchill and Cromwell, while capable in certain respects, lacked the firepower and armor protection to effectively counter heavy German tanks like the Panther and Tiger. By 1943, the General Staff formulated a requirement for a new design, one that combined high levels of protection, firepower, and mobility. This led to the conceptualization of the A41 project, which would later become the Centurion. The British Army's requirements called for a versatile tank capable of operating in a variety of roles. It was expected to replace both the cruiser and infantry tank classes, which had been designed for different operational doctrines. The goal was to create a universal tank, a new concept aimed at producing a single, versatile model that could fulfill both offensive and defensive roles on the battlefield. Prototyping and initial production. By 1944, as the war in Europe was nearing its end, the prototype of the A41 was ready. Several prototype Centurions were sent to the continent in early 1945 for field trials, just weeks before the German surrender. Although they arrived too late to see action, these trials validated the tank's design, proving its potential for the post-war era. The initial production model, the Centurion Mark III, was armed with a 17-pounder, 76.2 mm gun and featured armor that could withstand contemporary anti-tank weapons. However, lessons learned from these prototypes and initial production runs led to rapid advancements in its armament and protection, post-war evolution, and Cold War service. The end of World War II did not diminish the need for advanced armored vehicles. The advent of the Cold War created a new strategic context as NATO and Warsaw Pact forces faced off across Europe. In response to the changing geopolitical landscape, the Centurion evolved significantly through a series of Marks, variants, over the next decades. Mark III, 1948, one of the first major upgrades, this variant replaced the 17-pounder with a more powerful 20-pounder, 84mm gun, significantly increasing its anti-tank capabilities. Improvements were also made to the fire control system and turret, making it one of the most capable tanks of its era. Mark V and Mark VII, 1950s. These versions introduced new technologies like stabilizers for the main gun and more powerful engines, further refining the tank's battlefield performance. Mark VIII and beyond. The Mark VIII and subsequent variants featured the formidable 105mm L7 rifled gun, which became a standard weapon for NATO tanks throughout the Cold War. The adoption of the 105mm L7 marked a watershed moment in tank development, as it gave the Centurion firepower superior to most of its contemporaries and remained relevant for decades. Combat history and global use. The Centurion's combat history is as diverse as it is extensive, spanning multiple continents and conflicts. Although developed by Britain, it saw action with a variety of armed forces, cementing its legacy as a true global workhorse. Korean War. 1950–1953. The Centurion's baptism of fire occurred during the Korean War, where the British Army deployed it to support UN forces. Its thick armor and powerful gun proved invaluable in the rugged Korean terrain. The Centurion was instrumental in halting Chinese advances, particularly during the Battle of the Imjin River, demonstrating its resilience and effectiveness in combat. Middle Eastern Wars, 1960s–1970s. Israel emerged as one of the largest and most successful operators of the Centurion. It was used extensively in the Six-Day War, 1967, the War of Attrition, 1967–1970, and the Yom Kippur War, 1973. Israeli modifications included additional armor and more powerful engines, making their Centurions among the most effective tanks in the region. During these conflicts, Centurions often faced off against Soviet-designed T-54, 55, and T-62 tanks used by Arab states, showcasing its superior firepower and protection. Vietnam War, 1968–1971. The Centurion also saw service with the Australian Army during the Vietnam War. Modified for jungle warfare, it provided crucial support in counterinsurgency operations. The tank's robustness and adaptability were proven as it operated effectively in a non-traditional theater of warfare. South African Border War, 1966–1989. South Africa acquired Centurions in the 1950s and extensively modified them into the Oliphant MBT, which saw action during the Border War. The Oliphant's performance against Soviet-aligned forces underscored the enduring relevance of the Centurion chassis and design. Design features and legacy. The Centurion's design featured a balance of firepower, protection, and mobility that few tanks of its time could match. Its low profile, thick sloped armor, and powerful 105mm gun set a new standard for main battle tanks. The hull and turret layout, with a central fighting compartment, front-mounted engine, and wide tracks, allowed it to traverse difficult terrain while maintaining stability and speed. One of the Centurion's greatest strengths was its adaptability. The chassis proved versatile enough to accommodate upgrades in armor, weapons, and engines. This modularity allowed it to be continuously improved, leading to specialized variants like armored recovery vehicles, bridge layers, and even anti-aircraft platforms. Enduring influence and legacy. The Centurion remained in frontline service in the British Army until the early 1980s, being replaced gradually by the Challenger series. However, its service in other armies continued much longer, with many upgraded models still in use in various forms into the 21st century. The Centurion's influence extended beyond its operational life. Its design philosophy, emphasizing a powerful gun, strong armor, and versatility, shaped the development of future main battle tanks like the British Chieftain and the German Leopard 1. The 105mm L7 gun, originally fitted to the Centurion, became the standard NATO tank armament, used on the American M60, the German Leopard 1, and even early models of the M1 Abrams. Conclusion. The Centurion's history is a testament to its groundbreaking design and enduring capabilities. Developed at the end of World War II, it evolved to meet the demands of the Cold War and beyond, serving in numerous conflicts and adapting to various roles. The Centurion's legacy is that of a true universal tank, a design that, despite its age, remained formidable on the battlefield for over 50 years. Its influence on armored warfare is still evident today, making it one of the most successful and respected tank designs in military history.